Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Larry Dingle, Clerk of Council of the City of Atlanta. Welcome to the city's Quadrennial Inaugural event, which will install the city elected officials 1986-1990. This council meeting is now called to order. We'll proceed as outlined in the program. Thank you, and I hope you have an enjoyable evening. Could we have a little bit of audience assistance, please? We're going to have to sort of clear the aisles as quickly as we can so we can proceed, so the color guard can present the colors. Thank you.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Let us pray. Holy and everlasting God, as we gather on this solemn occasion, we gather in your name, ask for your presence among us, and that your power and wisdom be present in all that we do. Help us to understand what that truly means. Let our prayer be not an empty matter of form. As we call upon your name, we acknowledge our dependence upon you and pledge our willingness to listen to your words and to act in accordance with your will. You have cast your mantle upon these, your sons and daughters, and marked them for service. So give them grace to put aside dreams of personal glory and the temptation to political expediency. Help them when separated from one another on issues of principle and obedience to your word, to be found on your side, or else with the humility to discover error and cross over to your company. Gracious God, we do not pray that someone should change wrong, but that we all together might change wrong and create a bright future. So move and inspire the hearts of your people of this city, that where there are barriers they may crumble, that where divisions are they may be healed, that we may live in justice and in peace. By the power of your Spirit, may there now commence a time of jubilee. May sins and errors be forgiven. May the poor and those who have no hope hear good news. And may the waste places of our hearts and of our city be made habitable. O God, we plead that the someday of your kingdom might begin this day, that it spring forth in this place, and all of us, leaders and people together, be a part of it. In the name of that same Spirit we pray. So be it, so be it. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, the oath of office to the President of the Atlanta City Council will be administered by the Honorable Judge Clarence Cooper, Fulton County Superior Court.
Will you raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, Marvin S. Arrington,
I, Marvin S. Arrington,
swear that I will faithfully and impartially
swear that I will faithfully and impartially
demean myself as Council President
demean myself as Council President
during my continuance in office.
during my continuance in office.
I have not,
in
order to influence my election to this office,
to influence my election to this office,
directly or indirectly,
directly or indirectly,
expressly or impliedly, promise my vote or support to any person
promise my vote or support to any person
for any office
in
the city government of Atlanta,
the city government of Atlanta,
nor for any other office.
nor for any other office.
I will not knowingly permit my vote
I will not knowingly permit my vote
in the election or appointment of any person
of the election or appointment of any person
to a position in city government
to a position in city government
to be influenced by fear, favor, or affection,
to be influenced by fear, favor, or affection,
reward or hope thereof,
but
in all things pertaining to my said office,
but to all things pertaining to my said office,
I will be governed
I will be governed
by what is my conviction
by what is my conviction
for the public good.
I further swear
that I will uphold and support
the
Constitution and laws of the United States
Constitution and the laws of the United States
and of the state of Georgia.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Judge.
Next, ladies and gentlemen, we'll have the introduction of the 18-member body of the Atlanta City Council. As I call each name, would you please rise to greet the audience? The Honorable Debbie McCarty, Council District 1. The Honorable Bill Campbell, Council District 2. The Honorable James Howard, Council District 3. The Honorable Thomas Cuffey, Council District 4. The Honorable Reverend Hosea Williams, Council District 5. The Honorable Mary Davis, Council District 6. The Honorable Buddy Folks, Council District 7. The Honorable Richard Guthman, Council District 8. The Honorable Archie Byron, Council District 9. The Honorable Ira Jackson, Council District 10. The Honorable Jim Maddox, Council District 11. The Honorable Dozier Smith, Council District 12. The Honorable Rob Pitts, Council Post 13 at large. The Honorable Carolyn Long Banks, Post 14 at large. The Honorable Elaine Wiggins Valentine, Post 15 at large. The Honorable Barbara Miller Asher, Post 16 at large. The Honorable Myrtle Davis, Post 17 at large. The Honorable John Lewis, Post 18 at large. The oath of office will be administered to the members of the Atlanta City Council by the Honorable Judge Howard Johnson, Municipal Court, City of Atlanta.
Will you please raise your right hand to take the oath of office and repeat after me, please. I, give your full name, swear that I will faithfully and impartially demean myself as City Council member during my continuance in office. I have not, in order to influence my election to this office, directly or indirectly, expressly or impliedly, promise my vote or support to any person for any office in city government of Atlanta, nor for any other office. I will not knowingly permit my vote in the election or appointment of any person to a position in the city government to be influenced by fear, favor, or affection, reward or hope thereof, but in all things pertaining to my said office, I will be governed by what is my conviction for the public good. I further swear that I will uphold and support the Constitution and laws of the United States and of the state of Georgia. So help me God.
I am indeed honored and privileged to stand before you tonight as president of the Atlanta City Council. I want to recognize a couple of people who have been behind me throughout my life and have just been very, very supportive. I would like for my immediate family to stand, who are sitting right in front of me, my wife, my two children, the rest of my family. Please stand. And particularly like to pay recognition to my mother, who is standing there, and but for her, I would not be here tonight. I say that because you see a domestic worker who educated 5 kids and all have postgraduate degrees, and for that, I'm thankful. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, distinguished guests, friends, ladies and gentlemen. I had the distinct privilege of hearing Mr. William Raspberry, a syndicated columnist for the Washington Post, at the annual Atlanta Urban League dinner. Mr. Raspberry was quite informative and made some important points, and he also talked about black elected officials. In essence, rhetorically, he asked the question, have we, black elected officials, made a difference? I'll suggest to you that is not an easy question. I will be the first one to acknowledge slight gains under black elected officials. We have demonstrated competency at a level that history will record as more than adequate. We have appointed other blacks to positions where they have been able to demonstrate superior skills, such as George Napa, Aaron Turpo, Chester Fournier, Fred Artis, Shirley Franklin, Gary Holmes, Bob Jones, Larry Dingle, and countless others. We have much to be proud of. However, there's a real sense of failure. The masses have not reaped the benefits of the real gains in this city and nation. Some of us have made it, and that is applaudable, but any sense of satisfaction is superficial. When I travel to Perry Homes, Vine City, Cabbagetown, Old Summerhill, and other destitute areas, people who live in these areas once represented the cream of their community's crop, Maynard. In any such community, there are thousands of men and women, youth in the fullness of their physical development, who are already beyond the impulse to protest. These human beings languish beyond hope or aspiration, living from day to day, contributing nothing to their community, and ultimately nothing to our total society. The lines of civic, economic, and cultural concerns, which will link them to constructive participation in this community, have long been severed. Such individuals are all around us, and it's to our peril that we refuse to see them. However, we can instill hope and faith by including them in our agenda. For instance, if the business community and those who made the commitment to run a rapid rail line to Perry Homes will live up to that moral commitment, it will restore more faith and confidence in the black community than anything else. We've allowed our transit system by and large to become a system for the middle class. We all know who needs mass transportation and who voted and have continued to support MARTA. That commitment is equal as important as the Underground Atlanta project and all the other development projects put together. I am for the Underground project and do not want to be labeled as an obstructionist. For my position on Underground Atlanta, I want my record regarding Underground Atlanta to be absolutely clear with no ambiguity. The record will show that I was one of the first to endorse an Underground Atlanta concept, but later voted against it. Not because it was a theoretical good project, it was not a theoretical good project, but due to my serious concerns regarding the allocation of the great financial risks inherent in this project as currently proposed. I do not believe that the business community, which along with others will largely benefit from the proposed Underground Atlanta project, is contributing its fair share to the total community. And it is the total community which will ultimately assume the great financial responsibility for Underground Atlanta. I could and would support some of these major development projects if we can get major corporations in this city to come forth with a concept for community daycare centers for working parents. Major corporations could rent some of our abandoned public schools for $1 a year and allow low-income mothers to place their children in these facilities for proper caring while they work. This is called putting something back into the community. Remember, a profit-making society that does not care about its poor is no better than an oppressive system that we fight against with slogans and rhetoric. We are duty-bound to give attention to the underclass, that shameful large group of Atlanta who are either unemployed or if employed are receiving wages which allow them merely to survive from day to day. As one great writer said, it is not enough to give charity. It is our duty to do our share to see to it that we build a society where charity would not be necessary, a society where no sick person will go unattended, no hungry person will go unfed, no one will be poorly housed, no able-bodied person will go without adequate employment, and all good schools will be provided for all. As Martin Luther King Jr. stated, and I ask, why should there be hunger and deprivation in any land, in any city, at any table, where man has the resources and the scientific necessities, scientific know-how to provide all mankind with the best basic necessity of life? There's no deficit in human resources. The deficit is in human will. Benjamin Mays in his book, Quotable Quotes, to go, we are not here to play. We're not here to dream, to drift. We have hard work to do and loads to lift. Shun not the struggle, 'tis God's gift. Be strong. I suggest to you that the answer may be in Lionel Richie's #1 hit when he says, say you, say me, let's get it together. The great mayor of this city needs all of our support, including the Chamber of Commerce, Central Atlanta Progress, the Urban League, the NAACP, the Gate City Bar Association, the Atlanta Bar Association, the Empire Real Estate Board, and other business, civic, and community groups who care about this great city. I want us to hear of the same drummer, a drummer whose high step summons all of us to be fair, just, responsible, caring, respecting, and working for the common goal for the betterment of mankind. Mr. Mayor, I pledge my wholehearted support in trying to pull together groups to work on humanity and goodwill for the have-nots and for those who are unable to care and support themselves. The council and I look forward to having a great 4 years with you. We will work to put programs and projects together that will distinguish this great city as the world's next great city, and at the same time permit each and every one of us to look at each Atlanta square in his eye as their humble servants. Thank you very much. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge the presence of my pastor and his wife, Dr. Joseph Lowry, and I'd like to acknowledge his presence here. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, next on our program is the Honorable Reverend Andrew Young, Mayor of the City of Atlanta, who will be sworn in by the Honorable Osgood Williams, Judge, Superior Court of Fulton County, Georgia. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Forgive me, I'm moving a little bit too fast. We're going to have America the Beautiful by Cantor Isaac Goodfriend. Thank you.
By special request of our mayor, I shall sing the third verse first.
Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and the mercy more than life. America, America, may God thy gold refine, till all success be nobleness, and every gain divine. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. Amen. foe for pilgrim feet, whose stern impassioned stress a thoroughfare for freedom beat across the wilderness. America, America, God mend thee every flaw. Confirm thy soul in self-control, thy liberty in law. Oh, beautiful for patriot dream that sees beyond the years. Thine alabaster cities gleam, undimmed by human tears. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Mr. Mayor, will you raise your right hand? I, Andrew Young, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully and impartially demean myself as mayor during my continuance in office. I have not, in order to influence my election to this office, directly or indirectly, expressly or impliedly, promised my vote or support to any person for any office in the city government of Atlanta, nor for any other office. I will not knowingly permit my vote in the election or appointment of any person to a position in the city to be influenced by fear, favor, or affection, reward or hope thereof, but in all things pertaining to my said office, I will be governed by what is my conviction for the public good. I also swear that I will uphold this and support the Constitution and laws of the United States and of the state of Georgia, so help me God.
So help me God. I so swear. Thank you. Thank you very much, Judge Williams and Cantor Goodfriend and Miss Dionne Warwick, who has had to leave to go to our a benefit dinner, I think, for sudden infant death syndrome. And I'd like to say to all of you, including Ms. T. Renee Crutcher, and the pastors and Cantor Goodfriend who are with us, that we're really grateful to you for sharing with us in this occasion. And to take the words from one of Ms. Warwick's songs, that's what friends are for. I'm also particularly glad to be sworn in with this particular council and this particular council president, and to share that swearing in with 3 judges that I have known off and on through the years, who have represented us well and who stay in close touch, pulling together the legislative, the judiciary, and the executive branch, and helping it to function as much like a family as we possibly can. And we do function like a family. In fact, we function just about like me and my wife have been functioning for the last 31 and a half years. We get along just about like my brother and I do, and just about like my son and I. We argue once in a while, and I get lectured to just like my mother lectures to me. And in many ways, I think it's because we are a family and because we like each other, even when we disagree, because there's so much more that we share in common than the issues over which we might happen to disagree at a particular moment. I think that's one of the things that makes serving the citizens of this city a privilege and a pleasure, and one that I have thoroughly enjoyed not only these 4 years, but in every other capacity that I have been able to work with citizens of this city and serve them in some particular way. My life has been uniquely blessed, I think, that you have seen fit throughout the years to give me the opportunity to take over from the likes of Maynard Holbrook Jackson and Sam Massell and Ivan Allen and Hartsfield and keep this city moving forward in what I feel to be a very special and God-ordained way. I have a long list of things that I'd just like to read off as quickly as possible, because the record of these last 4 years, building on the previous 25 or 30 years, has been phenomenal as I look at it. There are things that I have seen as I have asked the commissioners to pull together information that I was not aware of. I was not aware that as they closed the books today on building permits, that in the last year alone, we issued $615 million in new building permits, bringing the total of new construction permits within the city limits to almost $2 billion in the last 4 years. This city has never grown at that rate. Never in the history of this city have we issued $615 million worth of new building permits in a single 12-month period. We were able... We've been able to reverse the trend of people moving outside of our city, and we now see population coming back into the city and bringing with it new businesses and bringing new mergers of businesses that have anywhere in the southeast to select as a location. And yet Bell South, the SunTrust Banks, Equitable Life Assurance Real Estate Division, IBM's Atlantic Center, Dean Witter's Municipal Finance Division, the Gannett Broadcasting Group, the Southern Railway, the Ritz-Carlton Hotels, the Marriott Marquis Hotel, the Marriott One Office Tower, and the Ibis Hotel, all decided that they were going to be here, and evidently that's because something going on here is going on pretty well. We look around and we see that in the midst of all of this boom, in the midst of all of this burden, over the last 4 years, with the addition of a sales tax of 1%, which allows some of the people who are coming through our city to share in the tax burden, we've been able to roll back the taxes and reduce the millage. That's city and schools together by some 10 mills over the last 4 years, so that much of the growth is helping to pay for itself as it goes on. We look around and we see that we have unparalleled opportunities. And yet I don't disagree with our council president. Everybody is not sharing in the growth and development in this city. We do have continuing problems of poverty. But these are problems that we are addressing as well as we possibly can. I ran into a young man in 6th grade in Perry Holmes when I was campaigning for the office of mayor 4 years ago. And I was very impressed with him because he said to me he wanted to be an engineer. And I said, son, in Atlanta, you can be an engineer. How's your math? He said, oh, I love math. And I said, well, if you keep on loving math, and if you keep on studying your lessons, I guarantee you, you can be an engineer. And I hope to be mayor by the time you get ready to go to college. And I don't care what your financial situation is. And even if I'm not mayor, you come wherever I am, this city is supposed to guarantee you an opportunity to be an engineer if you want to be an engineer. And it doesn't matter where you're born or who your parents are. If you've got brains enough and you're willing to work hard enough, you can be an engineer in this city. And so we put together the Dream Jamboree. And we invited more than 200 academic institutions, corporations, labor unions, and job opportunities to meet with 20,000 of our students. And every year for the last 3 years, we've taken 20,000 high school students through the Civic Center next door. And we've allowed them to sit with people from these 200 academic institutions and job-producing agencies. And we have lined up our young people with the opportunities that are out there in the world. And we saw last year that high school seniors in the Atlanta public schools alone got more than $13 million. In fact, it was so close to $14 million in scholarship offers that I just used the figure 14 million. So that children and young people like the young man in Perry Holmes who wanted to be an engineer can come to the Dream Jamboree and can start as early as 9th grade, beginning to plan their academic future and knowing what opportunities are there for scholarship and jobs when they complete 4 years in the Atlanta high school system. And so we look around and we see that those things over and over again are trying to provide new opportunities. The new investment that's come into the city, the $85 million that we put into a 4th runway out at the airport. Oh yes, that helped Delta and Easton. But 1,931 people worked on that $85 million construction project. And while there are 2,000 airplanes going in and out of our airport every day, there are almost 40,000 people that work around those airports. That airport and the jobs related to the airline industry, which is there basically because mayors and council members of our city have seen the importance of the airline industry and the transportation industry as a major economic generator. Those are people who might be poor were it not for the vision of the political leadership of this city over the last several decades. And this council before you, most of which was here for the last 4 years with me, essentially shares in that record because none of these things could have been done without them. And we look around and we see that even now we're in the midst of expanding the international terminal, building a new international wing that won't cost the taxpayers any money because that airport is generating money to pay for its continued growth and expansion. And when we bring in new airlines, airlines from Italy, airlines from Japan, airlines from Switzerland, the record has shown that we bring in business. In fact, over the last 4 years, we have hard figures that indicate that we have generated 48,000 new jobs in the city of Atlanta. Now, this is not the 250,000 jobs that have been generated in the total metropolitan area, most of which has been generated because of the economic activity and decisions made by city government in Atlanta. But Atlanta is not only responsible for and participating in our own growth and development. We've been inspiring and stimulating the growth and development all over the region. Now, we do have some problems. And the problem is that when a Marriott Marquis opens and hires 2,000 new people, those are not always 2,000 people who already live in the city limits of Atlanta. If you look at the new hotels that open up, they are people who come here to get an education and who are going to school and working at nights and who basically are the brightest and best from all over the nation that are coming in and taking many of the jobs that we generate. But we've tried to target specific needs in that direction as well. And so we opened up an Atlanta Industrial Park right there on Bankhead Highway and 285, not too far from Perry Homes and Bowen Homes in Northwest Atlanta. And we've attracted 27 new businesses into that area, including a new headquarters for Toys R Us, where they will have a an assembly warehouse operation that's the size of 8 football fields, and that will employ people in warehousing jobs and in supply jobs there. And that's just one of the 25. We attracted a new business. In fact, Mayor Jackson attracted Sanderson Industries here, a tool and die operation manufacturing materials for the for the automobile industry, that's black owned and operated by the Sanderson family, that came here and expanded and employing now 75 people there. And so the jobs that we're generating, we are generating for people in our city. In fact, the Private Industry Council and CETA have produced not only 8,000 summer jobs, but they have trained and placed more than 4,000 people, young people, people who have difficulty finding employment in jobs throughout our city. And so we look around and we see that there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on, and still there's a lot more that we have to do. I'm concerned about underground because I see underground essentially like I see the airport. I see underground like I see Atlanta Industrial Park. I see it not just as doing something for the business community. I see it generating 250 businesses and producing about 3,000 jobs. But I also see underground keeping the 81,000 jobs in our city that are related to the convention industry here. Every time we lose 1 percentage point in hotel occupancy, every time it goes down 1%, we lose 400 jobs. And every time it goes up 1%, we gain 400 jobs. And so if we can influence the hotel industry so that we, instead of losing 10,000 or 10% of our hotel occupancy over the new year because of new competitive activities in Charlotte or in Jacksonville or in New Orleans or Chattanooga, that if we can keep them and gain 10%, that 10% means another potential 4,000 jobs. And so almost everything we do in this city is attempting to try to generate the kind of job opportunity that would make it possible for almost every citizen in this city. We have not even just housed the homeless. We have worked with the churches and the Housing Task Force and Concerned Black Clergy and the Metropolitan Area Council of Churches, not only to provide night shelter for the homeless, but the City Council put up money for a day labor center to train and to give an address to homeless people coming through our city so that they can find a place from which, if they have any skills at all, it's possible for them to get from homelessness into the job market. And even in trying to find homes for the homeless, a task that's almost impossible with interest rates up above 10%. We have put $157 million into housing the homeless. If you want to look at the money that's gone in to housing development of low and moderate income housing over the last 4 years. Now that's mostly not taxpayer money. Most of that is money that's been generated through bond issues that we have subsidized slightly, that we have given some city support to enable people to get money at less than the prevailing market rate. And that's clearly putting dollars in the pockets of people who are poor or almost poor. If you bought a $50,000 home and you paid the prevailing 12.5 mortgage, we were able to get mortgages for first-time home buyers at 9.85%, some $32.1 million, so that the first-time home buyers in our city could get money at almost 3% below the prevailing rate. What that amounted to was $117 every month. Their payment was lower as a result of the programs that came through the Urban Residential Finance Authority. And over the 30-year life of the mortgage, that meant $42,000 cheaper on the overall cost of the house. And so when you look around, you see that we are doing the best that we can with limited resources in a very difficult financial market to make it possible for our citizens to enjoy a good life, the abundant life as the Bible calls it, and to do it in a context where we work together as a team and where we share in the growth and development of our entire city. And I could go on listing the successes, but those successes that are special don't take the place of the day-to-day routine that's performed by the citizens who work as employees of our city. There are cities in this nation, and many cities in the world, where you turn on the water and nothing happens. You never get up in the morning in Atlanta and turn on the water without water coming out, good, clean, fresh water. We're pumping more water and purifying more water now, some 43 billion gallons a year. That's more water than we've ever been able to pump in this city, ever in the history of our city. And we're supplying water from everybody from Fayette County, Cobb County, Fulton County, and the city of Atlanta. And some areas on the borders of DeKalb. And the presence of that water and the presence of a team of people that keep that water flowing and that keep our purification system updated. And we've recently refinanced $100 million worth of bonds. In fact, it was about $130 million that we now got it down to $85 million, which saves the taxpayers money on the cost of that water. We've been doing so many creative things with the help of the private sector, with the help of the people that are serving as our commissioners, and with the workers who work day by day, that this city is going well not by accident, and not because it ordinarily just is supposed to run that way. It's running well because there are a lot of people getting up early in the morning and staying up late at night, trying to figure out ways to keep it running well. I don't think you can find any better example of that than coming downtown at 9 o'clock in the morning after we had 300,000 people down for Light Up Atlanta. And we had 300,000 people downtown till 4 o'clock in the morning. By 9 o'clock in the morning when you came downtown Atlanta, the streets were clean. We had a street sweeping crew, we had a sanitation crew that made sure that by the time people got up and went to work the next morning or to church the next morning, that our downtown looked like it had never been touched. We served 43 different festivals in downtown Atlanta and brought a total of 3.5 million people back downtown for those specific festivals. And that put an extra special burden on the police force, on the fire department, on sanitation and streets, and everybody else. But it happens and it moves on smoothly. And it moves on smoothly because we've got a team of 7,000 employees that has not grown. They're doing more work with less. But I must say, we're paying them better. We have cut back on the number of people that are employed, but we're paying the people that work hardest and keeping them, so that the job that we used to face of training people and then having them run off to other counties surrounding us, now we've reversed that so that we have a pretty stable workforce. I don't mind training people for the surrounding area. I think that's one of our responsibilities because we are a part of this region. And I feel a lot safer and a lot more secure when somebody who has been trained by our police department becomes the police chief in Gwinnett County. I'm a little more comfortable up there because of that. I know he's been trained well. And when we go down to Clayton County and Fayette County and go on down, the more we can spread the influence of this city and the more we can be involved with a total metropolitan region, the better it is for Georgia and the better Georgia is for Atlanta. And so, looking at working these things through, I am really excited about the last 4 years. But I must confess, I'm still concerned. I must confess that I think we've been very, very lucky. Lots of things that we thought might happen didn't quite happen. We thought all federal funding was going to be reduced and lost. We didn't lose it all, but we lost 20% here, we lost 50% here, we lost all of CETA. But we've made those adjustments, and we've made those adjustments within our existing budget. But now I'm concerned because we're facing this Graham-Rudman-Hollins legislation that will basically take the federal government totally out of the business of working with cities. And we have not been able to count on the state for very much in the past. In fact, we've lost money to the state in this administration. But at the time that we are growing the fastest, at the time that we can project new growth, new opportunity, a new burden on the existing taxpayers. We're facing a total loss of federal subsidies. We're facing a state government that is itself running surpluses, but has not yet found ways to share those with the cities of the state. In fact, they probably, and maybe legitimately, feel more responsible to the poorer areas of the state of Georgia, because in the state of Georgia, we're seen as growing and phenomenally successful, and they are suffering because of the plight of the farmer, which is another side of this interest rate picture that we face. And so we're probably going to have to go it alone. We're going to have to go it alone, and we're going to have to go it as we've gone these last 4 years, as a team. We're going to have to try to keep on working together. And we're going to have to look out there and see what has to be done, and realize that even though it's not our responsibility, that if we don't do it, nobody else will. And so, Mr. Council President and members of the City Council, I accept with you the challenge of seeing to it that this city goes on and does even more these next 4 years than we've been able to do the last 4 years. And I say that not only in that we can complete most of the projects that have already started, that are well underway, but I think we can take on some new ones. We have seen some things happen that I think are nothing short of miraculous. When we started together, the General Motors factory in Lakewood was just about to close. Now it employs 3,400 people and $124 million a year payroll. But that was because the city got together and made it an enterprise zone. And we attracted General Motors to come in and put another $180 million to reinvest in that plant and update it. And the labor union got together with management, and they started running that plant as a team. And they now are going to produce a new line of Chevrolets at a plant that was scheduled to be closed 3 years ago, and they're going to add another 900 workers, and we say 1,000, to the already 3,400 jobs that have been created there. And so we know that we can do things. We know that we can start new businesses. And just as we have seen the businesses that grow that are here, I think we've got to continue the responsibility of new housing. We've got to have another 10,000 units of housing in downtown Atlanta. And we've got to have housing for low-income people, not just moderate-income people. Now, they don't have to be downtown, but we have to keep the downtown housing that's here for poor people. That is Techwood Homes, that is Capitol Homes, that is Grady Homes. Poor people want to live downtown too. But we've also got to bring some upper middle income people into downtown. And it may mean that we might have to do the same thing for the housing industry that we did for General Motors. That is, give them a 20-year tax break in order to get the jobs and in order to get the new investment. We're going to have to do that with underground. We're going to have to run some risks to generate some jobs and to keep the economy moving. We're going to have to look around and see what it is that this city needs to go on into the next century. And one of the things we need is more startup industries. More industries that we're not borrowing from other people or stealing, as we've stolen some, but industries by Atlanta people. Industries like Hayes Microcomputer, a young engineer who didn't want to leave Atlanta, so developed something called a modem that helps computers to talk to each other. And he hires 400 people here in the city of Atlanta, making something that is an Atlanta born and bred product. That's one of the reasons why I like Stay Soft Fro. It was created in an Atlanta kitchen. And it employs about 400 people, and it does do all right by my hair. But there are other ideas out here that other entrepreneurs, both black and white, have, that we're going to need to help them start up new businesses. And that's why we're going to have a business incubator center. And we're going to have to see to it that the MESBIC is continually funded, because we're going to have to generate new businesses in the business environment that we've created here. We're going to have to go on and do whatever has to be done because I'm convinced that this is destined to be a great city. It's destined to be a greater city than any of us can presently imagine. I don't think we could have seen 20 years ago. In fact, 20 years ago, I remember with Martin Luther King celebrating the fact that for the first time we were able to get Harry Belafonte to sing in the old Civic Center. And before that, nobody black had been able to come there in an integrated way. That was 1963. And that hasn't been that long ago. And to think that at that time, if anybody had said, in 25 years, we're going to have a new civic center, and we're going to swear in a whole bunch of folk, and most of them are going to be black. And most of them used to be poor before they got educated and contaminated and sophisticated and everything else. But those are the folk that are going to be running your city. And nobody would have understood that, and nobody, not even me, would have believed it. And I say to you that the next 20 years is going to do some things that we can't believe right now. It's going to do some things that we can't even dream. But it will only be able to do that if we can continue to work together, black and white, rich and poor, young and old, knowing that we are a family, that we are a team, and that anything we can think about doing, we can get together and do. There's no problem that we can't solve. Problems for us become opportunities. They become merely challenges. They become stepping stones. The spiritual said, Lord, don't move this mountain. Just teach me the way to climb. That's the way we look at the city of Atlanta. That anything that Reagan, anything that the economy, anything that the weather puts in our path, we will take it very much in stride, and we will remain true to the faith of our fathers, our city fathers, as Maynard Jackson, who have done so much with this city and who had less to work with than we have now, but who got us to this point. If they could get us to the point where we are now, how much further can we go together? Only God and our cooperation can determine.